Alright guys, what's happening? And welcome to the Testosterone channel. Around here we're dealing with all the latest news from the world of action and entertainment. And of course that leads us to a new movie, which is the remake of the 1987 The Running Man.
I'll be back.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that it has been almost 4 decades since the original movie came out, which of course was based on a Stephen King novel from 1982. Now, a lot of fans out there of Arnold and the 1980s action movies, of course, would say that the movie was awesome and over the top and all that stuff. However, what a lot of fans of the film don't know is that story-wise, the movie was very different from the novel. For example, originally, Ben Richards was supposed to be hunted all over America in a span of 30 days, with an army of tough guys snapping his heels, including civilians that tried to capture his head and a reward. Whereas the film took place 30 years into the future, which would be the year 2017, which is kind of funny now to look back at. The world economy has collapsed. The United States has sealed off its borders and has become a military-controlled police state which controls TV, movies, art, books, communication, and censorship. In the police state, criminals do have a choice. They can serve their sentence in prison, or they can take part in the TV show The Running Man, a government-owned violent game show where contestants running for freedom are pursued by so-called stalkers, wrestler-like bounty hunters. The Running Man is the top-rating show on network TV, and Damon Killian, the creator and host, is the most popular entertainer in the US. However, former LA police officer Ben Richards, framed for the massacre of innocent people, and soon after he's forced to appear on the game show The Running Man, joined by his 2 resistance friends, Weiss and Laughlin, and also a female employee at the network, Amber Mendez, that Richards took hostage, and she then turned Richards into the authorities. Now underground, the stalkers are forcing our 4 friends here. And let's just say, no one has ever survived The Running Man. Okay, so The Running Man was a typical 1980s Arnold action film, and it certainly did not hurt his career. However, it did not help that much either, because the very same year, in 1987, Arnold did another movie which was Predator, which is among his very best films. Now, Predator was a smash hit, whereas The Running Man, well, not so much. It did okay, but it was nothing special. Arnold was never too crazy about the film. Maybe because the original director of the film, Andrew Davis, was replaced just before the filming started, which is never a good thing. They kinda did the same thing with The Expendables 4, and it totally showed. Even a 10-year-old annoying kid could have created some better effects on his laptop, cause that movie was a true travesty. What's interesting is that a lot of old hardcore Arnold fans actually see this movie as something that has become almost like a cult classic, a crazy action/funny action film. Totally over the top, but so what? Again, it was the 80s, so they could get away with it. I mean, just the scene with the chainsaw cutting the man's balls in half, that was just so insane, especially at the time. Okay, so why did they change the storyline from the novel? Probably because of several reasons. Number one, they simply did not have the technology in 1987 that the novel required. And also because Arnold got involved, and they had to give the audiences what they wanted. Which of course, during that era was a wild, crazy, kick-butt action film. You know, kind of like the one-man army movies with memorable one-liners and crazy, insane action.
Don't forget to send me a copy.
And just like in Commando, in this film Arnold also had to fire an M16 using just one hand. And why? Because he could and because it looked cool. And even to this day, a lot of us guys that were around back then find these movies very enjoyable. And it's almost like going down memory lane and get a good laugh. Certainly compared to most of the action films that they do today, which in my mind, most of them really blows. Which of course leads us to, well, the remake of The Running Man, 2025. What's interesting is that this version is much closer to the original novel compared to the 1987 film. So is that good or bad? Well, we'll take a look at it. First, let's check out the storyline. In a near future society, The Running Man is the top rated show on television, a deadly combination where contestants known as runners must survive 30 days while being hunted by professional assassins, with every move broadcast to a bloodthirsty public, and each day bringing a greater cash reward. Desperate to save his sick daughter, working-class Ben Richards, played by Glenn Powell, is convinced by the show's charming but ruthless producer, Dan Killian, played by Josh Brolin, to enter the game as a last resort. But Ben's defiance, instincts, and grit turn him into an unexpected fan favorite and a threat to the entire system. As ratings skyrocket, so does the danger, and Ben must outwit not just the hunters, but a nation addicted to watching him fall. Okay, so The Running Man is not exactly the first remake of a 1980s Arnold classic that they have done. Yeah, they have done Conan the Barbarian, countless sequels of The Terminator. Most of them had Arnold in it though, so that wasn't really a remake, even though they have talked about it, but I think that's a very bad idea. They have also done several remakes and sequels of Predator. Again, we all know the original was the best. And then of course there was the remake of Total Recall with Colin Farrell in the lead. It will definitely not go down in movie history as the greatest thing that ever came out of Hollywood. And I believe they also did a TV show based on true lies. And now, almost 40 years after the original The Running Man, we have another remake. So what's the verdict here? Now, if you're a big fan of the original novel from 1982, you probably will enjoy this version. Also, because the novel actually takes place in the future, in the year 2025, which of course is, well, this year. And that's also the same year that the remake takes place. Whereas the Arnold version, for some reason, took place in 2017, though it did stretch over an 18-month period. So it most likely ended in 2019, if we have to be completely correct here. Not really sure why they did that in the Arnold version. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with remakes. I think sometimes it's necessary and interesting to give it a sort of different, more modern take on it. But does it work in this film? Well, normally you don't see remakes that takes place in the future. Well, maybe with the exception of Blade Runner 2049. But do you think it was awesome compared to the first one? Not really. I think in The Running Man 2025, they have good intentions, they're very creative, and altogether, I don't think it hurts at all. Besides, we need more action-adventure films these days. So I don't have a problem with Hollywood actually giving it a shot. And it's decent, okay entertainment. In the film, I was being reminded by Hollywood just a little too much about all this DEI, diversity, inclusion, and bullshit. Did it ruin the film? No, it didn't, unlike some other big sequels that we've seen. But it's like Hollywood just can't help themselves these days. It's like they want to piss off the world with all their politics, knowing that it's going to end badly, which obviously cannot be good for the film industry. It's very much equivalent to the captain of the Titanic if he deliberately was aiming the ship at the iceberg, knowing that this is not going to end well. And everybody keeps screaming, "Don't do it, moron!" And yet he keeps doing it, because he just can't help it. Well, that's pretty much what the film industry has turned into today. The words common sense and logic simply does not exist anymore. Okay, so how exactly did the movie do at the box office? Did the public like it or not? Well, so far, not too good. In fact, you can say it has bombed big time. It had a budget of $110 million, and it only brought in 17 on the opening weekend, compared to the original Arnold version, which had a $27 million budget, and it brought in almost $40 million. And that still wasn't considered a hit back in those days. So it will be a true miracle if the remake will earn back the budget. And let's not forget all the money that also has to be spent on PR. Yeah, I predict a true disaster here. Okay, so why exactly did it fail? Well, I would say a lot of older guys like me that remember the original will simply compare the actor Glenn Powell that plays Ben Richards with Arnold Schwarzenegger that played him in the original. Now, Glenn Powell actually did get Arnold's approval to do this film, so at least that was nice. But they also knew each other from The Expendables 3. Glenn Powell played one of those annoying kids that Stallone and the team had to rescue. And we also saw him in Top Gun Maverick, where he had a decent good role. So yeah, he's definitely becoming a star. But if you cannot carry a movie, who knows when he'll be offered to play a leading role again like this one. I mean, just look at Arnold. There's just something about an alpha man that looks cool, running around, shooting, saying tough lines, and all that stuff. And Arnold, even though he wasn't the greatest actor in history, he still knew exactly what he was good at. And movies like The Running Man, he was perfect in that. Also, I personally think that Hollywood needs to go back to some more good old-fashioned action. Maybe they should try to look into this whole concept of one man fighting an entire army. Yeah, of course it's not all realistic, but look at the John Wick movies. They did exactly that and they all performed very well, so why not give it a shot? But it seems like Hollywood is way past that old way of making movies. Now they want to be more intelligent and clever and creative and use way too much CGI. And altogether, it just doesn't work. And then when they try to do a remake from the 1980s, it just doesn't work because, of course, we're going to compare it to the original. And besides from the politics that we have already touched on, for Hollywood to make a good movie today, and especially in the action-adventure genre, well, this might hurt to hear, but they're just not that good at it. So again, I have no problems with Hollywood trying to do a remake of some old movies, maybe even classics, but they really need to get their stuff together and actually try to figure out what kind of movies that the audience today in 2025 want to see instead of just the movies that Hollywood want to make. So yeah, altogether guys, I'm definitely leaning towards the old original with Arnold. There's just nothing better than some good old-fashioned action and some escapism. And the 1987 The Running Man, I honestly think delivered. Even though now looking back, of course it's cheesy. But hey, so what? Alright gang, as usual, thanks for checking in. I appreciate you making it all the way to the end. And if you want to see some more action and entertainment, please check out the playlist and also hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe out there.